Hi guys, it's Laurel here, and today I am building a tiny house inspired by Get Famous. So, of course, I'm building in Del Sol Valley, and the first thing I need to do is change my lot type over to a tiny home residential so that I can keep track of my tile count. I'm not going to make the tiniest of tiny houses. In fact, it's going to be almost as big as it can to still be categorized as a tiny house. I think I end up using like 97 out of 100 tiles or something like that. But it's still nice and small, which my thought was I just wanted to build something that was going to be kind of quick to build. I built this on stream and I didn't want to be streaming for hours. But also, I find tiny houses fun. And this kind of gave me the idea, and I think I am going to follow through on this, to challenge myself to build a tiny house for every pack. So, this is the first of my tiny houses for every pack. So, you can expect more of those to be posted. And the reasons I wanted to do that is I think tiny houses are fun. It's kind of a challenge to fit lots in, but it also is like a very manageable task. And B, limiting myself to one pack is not something I do very often. I tend to build with everything I have, which is fun because I have all the packs, or not all of the packs, but I have a lot of packs, so why not use them? But that does mean that sometimes I don't use all the packs well because I get into like a habit of using certain items. So for instance, with Get Famous, there's quite a few things I haven't used like since the pack came out, if at all. Like these windows, for instance. I like the Get Famous windows a lot, but I've never used them. In fact, I don't think I realized just how much I like them. They're pretty versatile, and a lot of the packs don't have a full set of windows that I feel like I can do a house with, but I feel like I could here. I also really like that front door. So I wanted to build a tiny house for every pack so that I can kind of break down each pack and really learn and focus on what items are in it. So today we're doing Get Famous. I ended up going with kind of a mid-century theme because that's kind of where the pack leads you, is either the mid-century vibe or you can do all the gilded marble gold rich people stuff. And as much as, I love the golden toilet, I don't know if that was the vibe I was going for. So I went with more of the mid-century route. I'm working on the floor plan now. It is a pretty small house. It's only one bedroom. I probably could have crammed more in there, but I wanted it to just be one bedroom so that they had some room. Also, in my mind, this is the kind of house I would be playing with a sim that I'm trying to get famous. So I usually only have one sim in that regard because I want to focus on building their skills as an actor, musician, or whatever it is. So not huge, one bedroom, one bathroom. I'm working in the living room right now. I like the full size couch from this, but I realized it was just going to be crowded, so I went with just the love seat. This rug from Get Famous, still an icon all these years later. I love some of the swatches on it. I think it's actually a disservice to it to have the zebra rug be the main swatch, because the zebra rug doesn't work anywhere, or a lot of places, in fact. But I do like the other patterns a lot. This red and blue one, I used so many times when this pack came out. I use it less often now that we have other choices, but I still do really like it. I feel like the red and blue color scheme is kind of a lot. In general, I find bright red to be a lot of a color, but I actually like it in combination. And there's shockingly a lot of items that you can use in that color scheme in the base game in this pack. The walls are just white. I did put some wood paneling in. To me, that goes with kind of the retro mid-century vibe. Maybe that's just because like I moved into a house when I was a kid that was older and it had paneling everywhere, but not nice paneling. I think this paneling looks fun. The house I moved into when I was a kid was built in like the 60s or the 70s, and the entire house was done with wood paneling. But it wasn't really wood. It was like faux wood paneling, like really thin fake wood, or just like the surface. And we had to spend like the first year living there like just ripping paneling off the wall and redoing it because it wasn't even installed right. They would install things in that house with Elmer's glue. Like we'd take wallpaper off and it would be Elmer's glue holding it on, not like wallpaper glue. So that was interesting. So I always have that in mind with wood paneling, like that bad version of it, but I do think it adds a fun element of it here. Another thing I struggled with was cluttering the kitchen because I'm so used to having all my packs and I love to use all the different clutter we have and the clutter kits and everything. And when you go to just the base game and Get Famous, we don't have a ton of clutter. So, if I had access to every one of my packs, I definitely would have put more stuff out on the counters. I like a very cluttered kitchen. To me, that makes a build look very lived in, but I still like the way it turned out with just these items. The aprons, I swear I put those in every build. I just think it's like a fun little element to be like, oh, they cook in here. I am Going to in a second here, add a little desk in over behind the couch. I didn't have room for an actual office, but I do feel like you have to have a computer to play The Sims. Like, there are so many interactions at this point in the game that you can only do on the computer. I had to make sure I have it. I also put in a guitar because, like, if it's a Get Famous household, maybe they're trying to be a musician. I have the computer over here. It's a little cramped, but I figured that's okay. It's a tiny house. Um, Things are always going to be a little bit close quarters. Yeah, it's a little weird to walk in a door and immediately hit a desk, but I think it's worth it for the sake of your Sims having a computer to play on or use for their job, whatever it is. I actually have been thinking about this, and I feel like they need to just put all, if not like most, of the computer interactions on your Sim cell phone, because that's how it works in real life. Is there's people who don't have computers. Like, my parents don't have a computer. They just do everything on their phone. But there's some interactions you need a computer for in The Sims, and that annoys me. But whatever, I'll live. I'm on the bedroom now. I use this bed from Get Famous. I definitely don't use this very often. I feel like it's a little too mid-century to fit in most of my everyday builds. Like the couch and the coffee table and stuff, I can work those into more of an everyday average build. But this is a little bit more of a statement, especially if you go with some of the bright color swatches. But I just went with the neutral one. I do like it though, and I used another swatch of that rug because I just like it. And so I went more with the green color scheme. The red is still there. I used a lot of red in this build, and I am not a big red person. I did have to, in this room, be careful to not accidentally go too into the Christmas theme with all the red and green. It could easily turn into that. So I just put a couple little red accents and more focused on the green and the neutral colors. This is a pretty simple bedroom. It just has a bed, a couple end tables. I put a storage or a dresser in. I ended up putting a mirror too, because same thing with the guitar. If you're playing with the Get Famous, I feel like you might try to have them be an actor, so you have the mirror for them to practice their acting skills. And then just a little bit of decoration on the wall over here because it is quite empty. I tried some of the movie posters and stuff that come with the pack, but I just felt like they were all a little too much for a bedroom. So I did a little shelf with a couple items on it. I feel like this ends up being one of my go-to moves, is putting a shelf with decorations as opposed to just wall art. I just feel like it fills the space better. And last but not least, I have a bathroom. I do feel like bathrooms are like my weak point in decorating. I always feel like I just have to get them done because they're required. So I try to clutter them up a little bit more to make them a little bit more special. I don't know if I ever actually used this Get Famous sink, but I went for it today in the orange color. So I thought the terracotta tile kind of pulled in the orange color of the sink. And then just added a little bit. I added some windows in, partially because the light's nice and partially because the entire back house of the house had like no windows on it. So needed something to look a little less crazy from the outdoors. I added a couple art pieces and stuff just to fill it up. And then I call it good. I, of course, put my toilet paper. To me, that was like when I started decorating bathrooms more, I was like, there's toilet paper. It's so realistic. But I still do it to this day. It does, it's not a complete build until I put that out. I'm going to move on now to the exterior. What I'm doing here is blocking off half the yard because this lot is giant. All the lots in Del Sol Valley are just so big. And it doesn't make sense if this is my house of like a struggling artist or a struggling actor or something like that for them to have a huge lot. And also like a tiny house on a giant lot just seems like it's floating there. So I made the back lot like it's like an empty lot that hasn't been built on. And then I just filled in some place with trees. And that way it's kind of like the lot isn't as huge as it was before. It makes it feel like an actually reasonable space for the size of house. And then I do a little yard with a different fence for them. I give them a little front yard, and then I'll give them a little backyard in the back where they're going to have a pool. So this is a pretty fancy tiny house. I did think about, like, if it's a tiny house, should it be a starter house? Should it be pretty cheap? But that would have prevented me from using a lot of the items in the pack. Like, I didn't want to be limited by that too. So it is a tiny house, but it isn't a starter house. I can't remember how much it ends up being, but it does cost a little bit. It's not unreasonable, but it does cost quite a bit of money. So it does have some nice things like the pool in the back. For right now, I'm going with some landscaping on the front. I ended up going with these pink flowers, and I thought it looked really nice because it's like kind of a pop of bright color, especially with the teal of the front door. I thought that that looked good in Del Sol Valley because it is kind of a sunny, tropical place. Put my mailbox in. I've been forgetting that lately, but I didn't this time. And a chess table on the front porch, which I feel like I do a lot. But you know, it's a useful item to have in a build. And like, where else am I gonna put it? And then, because I like the bright pink of the flowers, I put some little plastic flamingos in to kind of emphasize that pink color. I'm working in the backyard now. It's a pretty good sized backyard, and then they're gonna have a pool, like I said. And same thing, I feel like putting in that fence broke up that big lot a little bit by making it into little sections. So we're gonna do that. I put that platform in, and I was right. I ended up with 97 tiles out of 100 for my tiny house. And then I'm just working in the backyard. I feel like a pool was necessary in Del Sol Valley. Like, if I was in sunny California, I would want to have a pool that I could go in all the time. And I also like forget to ever put pools in my Sims builds. I don't know why, but I never do. I guess like I don't think to play with them very often because they don't necessarily serve a purpose other than like the fitness skill, but it's usually easier to put in like a treadmill or something. That being said, I do think pools are fun gameplay wise because it is like fun for the storyline. Like if you have a family house to have your kids go play out in the pool in the summer or to host a pool party. Sometimes they even like to set a holiday in the summer where it's about like barbecuing and playing in the pool or water activities and just generally enjoying your time outside. So maybe I do need to add more pools. I also see people build really cool pools in backyards online when I watch other people build, and I am always inspired to do the same. So maybe I do need to flex my skills a little bit more and try to make interesting backyards. I feel like I do kind of leave them aside when I build. I focus on the interior so much I forget about the outside. I'm giving them a little bit of a porch in the back. I added those brown bar things, I don't know what they're called, the little like room divider on the wall there just to add some visual intrigue because the back of the house was just a white square, so it needed something. Gave them a little bit of an area to relax, so they have some loungers. I also put a table out. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think this table will function. It's really crammed in the back corner there. I just wanted something to fill the space, but there really wasn't space, so I can't promise that your Sims can access that, but it looks good and it shouldn't interfere with the pool working, so it's fine. I'm gonna work on some landscaping now. My general go-to tip when it comes to landscaping is to focus on just a few plants and then use them throughout to make it look more cohesive. I feel like when I try to use too many plants, I get overwhelmed or I feel like it looks messy. I usually start by choosing a few plants that are from the world. So like the trees I used in this build are ones I saw elsewhere in the world, and like the aloe vera and that green tall shrub is in the world, and then I just add a couple things that's more unique to this lot, so like the pink flowers. That way it kind of blends in with the world. It doesn't look completely out of place and the whole thing matches. So that's why you can see me copying plants from the front yard to use in the back. That's not necessarily true to how landscaping is in real life, but when you're zoomed out on the lot, I think it makes it look nice when it matches throughout. And then I'm just doing a little bit of terrain paint. I always go in with the dirt tool and put it underneath the plants and any like patio or stuff like that just to make it look a little bit more realistic. And here we are at the end. I really like this build. It was fun to challenge myself to use more items from Get Famous. I'm excited to try more of these tiny house challenges, so if you want me to build for a certain pack, let me know in the comments and I'll put that on my list. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please be sure to leave me a like or a comment letting me know what you think. You also can subscribe to this channel to see my next video. And if you'd like to see more gameplay and builds, feel free to follow me on Twitch, where my username is also a Laurel. I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.